Hi everyone, I'm Tang and I'm really pleased to be introducing you to this webinar on enhancing your professional social media presence. In this edition, we have a great lineup for you with two major social media influencers from the legal industry. We have future trainee solicitor Gordon Chung in London and former corporate lawyer turned coach to lawyers Lara Quie in Singapore. In the first part, we delve into Gordon and Lara's careers to date and their reasons for creating a social media brand. And in the second part, we delve deeper into the processes required to develop your online personality. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and if you're on YouTube, click on the alert notification. For those who are avid LinkedIn or Facebook users, follow our company page, Anise Legal and Compliance, for alerts on the latest articles, videos and invitations to videos like these on careers, recruitment and personal growth and development. I hope this webinar inspires you to get started, and I look forward to seeing many of your future posts. In this webinar is to encourage as many of you, whether you are students, aspiring lawyers or experienced lawyers, and also young professionals or experienced professionals who have an interest in this area, to see what you can do to elevate your brand. And this evening we have two fantastic guests, and I'm sure some or most of you may well have come across one or both of our guests this evening. So this is a truly international lineup, and we've covered three corners of the world: Hong Kong, London, and Singapore. And the first of our guests is currently in London, although he is a local Hong Kong lad who's now starting to make waves in the UK. Gordon is a future trainee solicitor. He's due to start his training contract next year with Baker McKenzie. He has qualified as an attorney at law under the New York Bar, although he's pending admission. He graduated from the University of Cambridge with a master's in corporate law, and he was the founder of a not-for-profit platform called Global Lawyers Connect, which is a global network of lawyers who are who have a goal of motivating other lawyers to increase their social mobility and diversity around the world. And with over 20,000 lawyers on LinkedIn, that I guess has been accumulated in just 18 months. I think that's a phenomenal achievement, as well as publishing several chapters and books. So he seems to have done more than I have done in my entire career. So the next one, our next guest is Lara Quie in Singapore. And Lara graduated from the University of Oxford, and she qualified as a corporate lawyer in the City of London. She worked there in the city as well as in Brussels, I believe, for several years before she moved to Asia. And she transitioned into a career in business development and marketing within international law firms. And she then moved over to Singapore after a couple of years. And her last role in this field was as the head of business development and marketing for Asia with the international law firm called Duane Morris. And more recently, she has gone alone in order to set up her own coaching business. And she's known as the Legal Genie and a mentor to an increasing number of lawyers around the Asia region. And she also has a podcast as well called the Coach Potatoes Podcast. So do look that up on the Apple Podcast. So thank you very much to both Lara and Gordon to attend this event today. And I hope we'll get lots of insights from the both of you on the topic that we're going to be discussing this evening. So without further ado, we'll go on to the next slide. Let's see. So this is basically the agenda. Oh, sorry, the agenda we just flicked through. Introductions and then panel discussion. But before we do, I wanted to highlight the fact that LinkedIn has experienced a turbocharge of usage over the past year or so. Not necessarily driven by the coronavirus pandemic this year, some of the statistics actually overlaps with last year as well, 2019. So from March last year to March of this year, there was a 55% year-on-year increase in the number of conversations, i.e. engagement on the LinkedIn platform worldwide, as people look to reconnect with their network and share advice and tips as we navigate through this working environment together. And then there has also been a 50% year-on-year increase in content creation on LinkedIn up to June of this year. So as you can see, you know, people are more engaged on using LinkedIn and no doubt on other social media platforms to enhance their professional branding. So let's go on to the next slide. So here we're going to start on the panel discussion, and what I would like to do, I'm sure that a lot of people here, you know, for those who know Gordon or have seen his posts, you know, the next section you'll be interested in to hear about his story as well as Lara. So I think Gordon is up first with the next slide. So thank you, Gordon, for coming along. And it looks like it's evening time where you are, even though you're in London. It's just after 11. But the night sky, or the day sky in the UK, the grey overcast skyline is probably just having a big impact on the light that's coming in through your window.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really tell whether it's morning and night sometimes, but it's a lovely city to live in. But like, anyway, thanks for having me today, and it's definitely my pleasure to be here. And I think LinkedIn is just such a great platform nowadays, especially it's very different from 4 or 5 or even 10 years ago when people just use it as a CV. And for me, I basically didn't plan to really, you know, become someone who is a more like active social media poster on LinkedIn. It was basically a coincidence because years ago, I came from Hong Kong to Cambridge to do my master's degree. And after that, I decided to stay in the UK and look for career opportunities. And with about a years of kind of like figuring out the whole application and recruitment process in London, I fortunately secured a training contract with Baker here in London. And basically in the same year before I actually got that training contract, I decided to take the New York bar as well. So that right after I got my training contract, I still kept studying for the bar. So I feel like for me, I was also fortunate in the sense that all the things came together in the year of 2019 so that I could achieve these multiple things. At the same time, I started posting on LinkedIn. I think it's October 2019, literally the day I got my New York bar exam results, and then I post my first serious post on LinkedIn, and it generates lots of feedback and comments from people. And later on, I realized, I didn't actually realize it was gonna be something that draw attention, but people started messaging me, telling me their life stories, telling me about their career journeys, how they struggled to be a foreigner in a different country, how they struggle in the legal career path. So I just realized maybe what I was doing was kind of helpful, so that I just kept posting some different contents, mainly about the kind of struggles or thoughts I have when I applied for jobs, but I didn't succeed. So I kept posting that for a while. And then at the end, there are more people who are interested in seeing the vulnerability of maybe future lawyers or also the legal professional in general. So that's basically how I started the whole LinkedIn place and why I'm here in London today.
Great, thank you so much for that. And you mentioned that you did your first post after finishing the New York bar. What actually motivated you to do so?
Well, honestly, because even when I used like Instagram and other social media platform, I don't really post that often, to be honest. But it's just that moment I felt like I worked so hard for a year. Like it's like 2019, like I got my training contract, which I kind of looked for a long time, and then I passed the bar exam at the same time. It's just, yeah, maybe it's also the moment that I really want to share my happiness at the same time when I'm in a different country, like all my close family and friends are not here at the same time, but also want to yeah, share my experience with others who are maybe struggling as well, so that they may hear my story. Potentially, they will also be able to achieve the same thing, even though they are not necessarily from the most prestigious background. I think that's probably my motivation to share my first serious post and talking about my. Honestly, it wasn't a post that I wanted to encourage people, like my sole motivation. Of course, they're also part of me. I really want to see. Finally, I did it. So that is more like. Also, it's a satisfaction I want to express, to be very honest, at first when I post that.
Right. Yeah, there are a lot of people who I speak with about getting on board with using social media as part of their branding. And one of the hurdles that like a mental hurdle that they need to overcome is the fact that they think, well, I don't know what to post about. And it's, seemingly you seem to have this endless list of content that you can just post up. So, do you have any tips in terms of like what is the process in you generating the seeds of an idea that then becomes a story that you tell?
Yeah, sure. Honestly, for me, it's also has been difficult, I would say, lately, especially. I think it's easier when you're actually experiencing life, but with lockdown and, any all the things happening, it's also hard for you to decide what kind of content you want to put out there. Because for me, for example, when I talk about my experience for the training contract or the bar exam, those were my experiences. So that I actually recommend those who are in private practice or maybe lawyers who could share their past experiences, because their experiences are definitely more extensive than mine, because I didn't live for that long. Like compared to more legal professionals, they have been in this industry for a long time. They have lots of experiences to share. They could literally start from law school life or even before deciding to go to law school. That may also make them more favorable to, or like more ideal for law students, because they want someone who experienced the same. And I'm literally like experienced that, I don't know, a year or two ago. So it wasn't that far away for them. So that I'm the kind of maybe image or person that they think I can resonate with their experience at the moment. So I think that's also what draw people, towards me or my advice or my opinions, because they think it's pretty genuine, and literally I talk about my feeling, which happened not long ago as well, which could come across as more genuine and also authentic as well.
Yeah. And what about in terms of the Global Lawyers Connect? I mean, that's an amazing platform that you founded and have developed, and it's created this real buzz, particularly on LinkedIn, around the world. I've got former colleagues who are part of this, and giving mentoring to other people, and it seems to have created this sort of this sort of mini fire that's sort of caught across the world, and in different pockets of different jurisdictions. There are lawyers who are really keen to provide or share their experiences of going through the process of applying for training contracts, or just getting through life generally as a lawyer.
Yes, definitely. That was a platform I created during the pandemic, like the 3 months of lockdown in London. I just feel like because I'm going to work as a lawyer someday, I'm not going to, being able to give tips every single day on LinkedIn anyway. So what I can do is create something that is able to do so. And I created the platform, for example, even on the Facebook group now, there may be 7,000 members there. I didn't post that often, but people just raise particular topics. Maybe they want to work in Canada, work in UK, work in New York. They just post it, and then some people will reach out to them and discuss that particular topic with them. Then it actually helps them in a way that I'm not actively involved, but which is fine. And they actually get help there. So I think that's also a good thing about the platform I created, or to have a platform about global career. Because when you want to practice in another jurisdiction, it's insanely difficult for you to do so nowadays, especially as you mentioned, lawyers are not that active on LinkedIn, most of them. So it's really hard for law students or aspiring lawyers to find someone to mentor them or to give them advice. So I think it's good for me to have this platform so that some more experienced professionals or even junior lawyers can help maybe law students or people who just got into law school. So that was probably my motivation for doing that.
Okay, great. And then for the benefit of those lawyers, with a bit of experience, and they seem to be very interested in taking part in this initiative. How do they go about doing it to become a mentor, or somebody who can give guidance to other lawyers or aspiring lawyers?
Yeah, I think quite honestly, it's still difficult to make, for example, partner level lawyers or senior associate to get involved. But I do see a lot of junior lawyers, at least 1 to 5 years PQE, they would be willing to at least connect with some people who they don't know on social media, or on Facebook, on Instagram, so that they could give some advice, or at least they would come and join me for a webinar and talk about particular topics, about a specific tips, to get into a different legal market. So I think it's still good. It's a progress that we are making, I would say. And it's not easy, honestly, to convince the more senior level of like law firm or lawyers to participate in an event or to help younger people, because they're insanely busy with work and with the position they're occupying. So it's just a progress that I think we need to, hopefully it will getting better and better with more senior people involved.
Yeah, great. And then on to the point about the fact that you are a future trainee. You'll be starting your training contract next year. Some people might think, well, it's all very well. You're outside of the boundaries of your future employers, so you can actually say what you want. But now I'm a qualified lawyer, or I'm a trainee. I may be subject to certain restrictions about what I can post on social media, with my lawyer's hat on or trainee hat on. So do you think, have you encountered anything like that, or do you anticipate encountering any such difficulties with your future firm?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely an issue that generally lawyers who want to post content on LinkedIn need to be aware of. I also am aware of the things I post, because let's be honest, even as a future trainee, I'm kind of like maybe the brand ambassador for my business now if I keep posting content there and a lot of people seeing those kind of contents. So definitely there were times maybe I felt like I should avoid using a particular phrase or kind of sentences, which may come across, because everyone interprets different things differently. So I need to be careful about what kind of content I post. So right now, at least, I will know what kind of content will definitely be safe. For example, if I share knowledge, resources with others, usually firm couldn't really say anything about that, because it's just 100% helpful gesture. So, I mean, people are universally happy with this kind of post. So I would say that in that respect, maybe I will also kind of try to generate more content that are like neutral or like more objectively helpful, that I think can definitely avoid the situation that may be, like more dangerous if you're already a lawyer, because you represent your firm. So I think in terms of content creation, there might be a little bit different approach for me to adopt if I actually work for a firm. So that's very true. But also at the same time, I feel like I can always talk to the HR members of my firm, and I think they are usually pretty happy with you doing things that within your freedom, as long as you don't compromise the firm's interest in a significant way. So I think should be all right, and I think communication is still the key for this kind of thing.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, no, thank you for that, Gordon. Before I actually go over to Lara, I would like to introduce a poll for the whole of the audience who are here this evening. And I'm going to just flag up our first of 3 polls. Okay, so I'm going to launch this. So now you should see that on your screen. And the question is, how many connections do you have on LinkedIn? So if you could just press on your buzzer or your keyboard, and then we'll end the poll in about 10 seconds. So there seems to be quite a number of people with 500 plus. A few who have fewer than 100. Okay, so we've got this, we'll end that poll. Great, so at least the majority of the people who've participated have more than 500, which actually seems pretty good. And that goes to one of the points that Gordon had raised about, traditionally what was LinkedIn all about? And, in my time when LinkedIn launched in the early noughties, it was just simply used as an online CV. And to many people, that is still regarded as an online CV. But there are so many different functions that LinkedIn have. You know, they are now a genuine, broad social media platform to assist with both organizational and personal branding. And it's good to see that the majority of people who have voted do have 500 plus connections, because in olden times, you didn't really connect with people if you'd never met them or you didn't know them. And so I started out with about 50 or 60 connections for quite a number of years before I realized, hang on, there's no law against connecting with people that I don't know if I would like to add them onto my LinkedIn or my wider network. So, okay, oh, I've got to share the results, so hopefully you'll see that. Good. The other thing I wanted to mention is we are going to have a Q&A session towards the end, depending on how much time we have. So if anyone has any questions that they would like to throw to any of the speakers at this evening's event, please post them up in the chat forum and we'll collate them and try to ask as many as we can in the time that we have left. And we also have a mini competition as well at the end of this webinar. So we'll go on to the next segment, which is a discussion with Lara. So also with Lara, just a quick thank you for coming along this evening, and tell us a little bit about your story.
Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for having me today.
You're welcome.
Hi. Yeah, it's great to be here. Well, I was thinking about my my social media journey, and actually, I suppose it all goes back to my childhood, really, because I was born in the UK, but when I was 6, we moved to the south of Spain. And when I was 12, we moved back to the UK. And that's when I started having a lot of pen pals. And there was this pen pal craze at my school. And at one point, I had over 60, that's a 6 and a 0, pen pals. So I was a very early connector. And I loved receiving real snail mail in my mailbox every day, literally every day. And so when I discovered a platform called Friends Reunited, I really got into it because I was able to connect with all sorts of friends from school and all sorts, and people abroad as well. And so then Facebook came along. I was a very early adopter of Facebook. I think I might have been on it from about 2006 when my first daughter was little. And I remember posting photos, you know, of her as a baby and sharing those kind of experiences all on Facebook. And so when LinkedIn came along, I think was a very early adopter. I love technology. I love connecting with people. And so when I was in business development and marketing, I saw it as a very good tool for increasing exposure of the law firm that I was working in. So I used it very much in a business context in the beginning. And it's more recently doing my own business that I've been able to leverage it more for my own purposes.
And on the flip side, with what we were discussing with Gordon earlier, now he doesn't have so many restrictions at the moment, but we can all see that joining a multinational law firm, there are going to be more expectations and boundaries from which you can express yourself on social media. You've now sort of been on that platform, and now you're out on your own in the world as an executive coach. And so, do you see any differences in the approach that you take with the social media?
Definitely. I did feel very, very restricted in terms of what I could post when I was in, my professional position. As Gordon mentioned earlier, that he feels that he's now an ambassador for Baker & McKenzie, and certainly during my time at Duane Morris and Selvin, I was very much an ambassador for that firm, and I used my personal profile. However, it was really, for the firm. So I was promoting events that we did, liking content of other lawyers, and just really leveraging my personal profile to push the story for the firm. I didn't feel that I had that much freedom to like any friends' posts who were at other competing law firms. I did feel extremely restricted in what I could do, actually. So it was extremely liberating when I was able to be, my own self, and start to post, a lot more personal content.
Okay, great. Yeah, when did you what sort of motivated you in terms of when you were working in the law firms? Did somebody actually sort of encourage you or push you to be more aggressive on social media, or you actually just took that line yourself?
Yeah, I think, I'd always had a profile on LinkedIn because, as you know, yes, it was a sort of a CV as such. So, I was in my most recent position for 5 years. So I think probably about 7 years ago was when I started to use it for my CV. But it was a very powerful tool, and I did really notice that. And I'd say in the last 3 years or so, I particularly noticed how powerful LinkedIn was in terms of generating interest for events that we were doing, or finding, the number of likes for something to be more significant. Once I started to get more than, say, 1,000 likes or views views for something, I thought, wow, this is pretty interesting. And I began to take a big interest in LinkedIn. What could I post? What works in terms of content? What times of day? Filling out my profile in greater detail, and noticing all of the developments. LinkedIn were constantly updating, adding all sorts of new features. If you look at this page here, you'll see that there's a little speaker symbol next to my name, and I've recorded how you say my name there, because lots of people struggle with my surname. So there's that, there's so many features now, and there's new stories features, but it's becoming more and more, as you mentioned, Chris, earlier, it's a lot more like an ordinary social media platform such as Facebook or Instagram. But at the same time, it needs to balance finely between the professional and the personal worlds. I do think that, there is sort of a fine line between the two. But my LinkedIn, I try to keep it professional, but at the same time, as Gordon said, people are really looking for authenticity. They like to hear personal stories, and they particularly like to hear where you've overcome some sort of challenge. So sharing a positive story of, I was struck by this, but this is how I overcame it, and this is the moral to this tale. So to give people hope, and sharing your vulnerabilities as well. Nobody wants to be perfect and think of other people as perfect. So yeah.
And we've largely discussed so far about LinkedIn as the primary social media platform, but both you and Gordon have used other platforms. So how do you feel about using the others? What do you think in terms of the reach or the effectiveness of other platforms that you use? And this goes to both you and Gordon.
Yeah, I think, they both have different purposes. So I have an Instagram I have a textile and handcrafts business as well. And because that is very visual, I've got beautiful photos of things that I post on there. I've got more than 4,000 followers on Instagram for that account. which is called Lara Quie Designs. And that's a very different proposition. And I've only recently started my Lara Quie Associates coaching page, where again, I use nice graphics and quotes, sort of powerful coaching quotes, positive messaging. And then I say a little bit about that quote. So it's a good platform for that. And Facebook is purely, for me, quite sort of personal friends and things, but I do also have a Lara Quie Designs Facebook page, where basically Instagram just posts automatically for me on my Facebook page.
Okay, and you've also got your podcast as well, and so how's that going?
Yes, so I started a podcast a couple of months ago with a friend, and that's been a fantastic adventure. Really enjoying that. I do foresee podcasts as something that everybody should be into eventually. But the Coach Potatoes helps us explore a lot of different areas of coaching and interact with people as well, because we're doing interviews with various interesting people. And that's something I love, because I'm all about relationships and connecting with other people. So I leverage connecting through LinkedIn to find interesting guests to interview on our podcast.
Great. And you, Gordon, you also have the YouTube that you also post up on LinkedIn as well. So I see a number of videos that you've also posted there. How have you sort of used each of these platforms interchangeably?
Yes. For me, I think the YouTube channel is pretty much, I want it to be a one-stop shop for law students, like about my experience, like ranging from how to study for law school, how to qualify in New York, how to get a training contract, all the tips and advice. Because for LinkedIn, it's usually a more or less short form content, like up to 1,300 characters. But for YouTube video, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, so that people could actually give more like detailed advice or, video content so that they can watch. I think that's another way to how people or generate content that are more like for audience who are seriously considering to improve their career or legal education, etc. And that's why I think YouTube channel is pretty helpful for me, because even people connect with me on LinkedIn, they may reach out and say, I watch some of your YouTube videos, I found them very useful. So that's why I connect with you on LinkedIn. So actually some people find me on YouTube rather than LinkedIn as well. So I'm pretty happy for the diversity of my audience as well. And for Instagram, it's also more like showcasing more like my personal side as well, because people always say, see me on LinkedIn, they usually think, oh, you're super serious, Gordon. Like you're always talking about those like more serious topics. But I also want them to know that I'm not only, like we're human. So we have different sides. So some people, if they really love your content, really love what you're doing, they will actually follow you on Instagram or to know more about you as a person. So I think that's a good thing. That's why on Instagram, I didn't promote it that often, to be honest, but people who follow me on Instagram, usually they have been following me on LinkedIn or YouTube for quite a while, so that they find me on Instagram, so that just to let me know that they are supporting me, which is amazing feeling to have, because you have people keep watching your content and kind of pay attention to you as a person rather than just this person on LinkedIn giving advice. So I think it's always good to have different media platforms so that you can showcase different personality and also different kind of contents as well.
And I've noticed actually all of these influencers who are coming out of the legal industry, these future trainee lawyers, they tend to be from the UK. Or is there some sort of rivalry or competition about who can be the most popular, or the ones with the most views and so on? Because as far as I understand, I haven't really come across anyone here in Asia, let alone in North America, do anything similar to this at that stage in their career. So I don't see any Hong Kong U students or Chinese university students doing the same thing, even though there is also a 2-year gap between securing their contract and actually starting their training contract.
Yeah, I probably also want to just very quickly talk about that, because it's also, I was also surprised at first when I look at even today, when I look at Instagram Instagram or something. So many even law students, they will have an Instagram page talking about their journey in law very earlier on. And some people actually have a pretty big following on Instagram, even though they're not future trainee or anything like that, which is amazing as well at the same time. Because when you look at the legal market, if you really want to help the younger generation, even people who are law students, they could do so, because there are people who are high schoolers want to get into law school. Then the closest group of people they can look for are those who are in law school, even first, second year law student. They would probably give better advice than me. For example, it has been like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years since I was a first year law student, so that I wouldn't be able to give that kind of advice. But it's just a trend, and also, it's a trend in the UK that if you're a law student, you could be kind of an influencer, in the sense that just to develop your personal branding at a younger age. I think this is also a good thing for them to do, because it's also a bit related to your future as a professional, or even for your business, so that you know how to market yourself, market a particular business. So that I think this is also a skill that they can use even in their training contract application to differentiate themselves from the other if they do it well, and they can show to the firm that they know how potentially a businesses or personal branding or branding works in real life. I think that's also an important skill for the future of lawyer, especially in the wake of technologies and all those social media platforms, TikToks, etc. Those platforms are really helpful if the law firms can actually take advantage of them and utilize them. So I think it's probably a really UK thing, that we have been building up all the cons and
Well, I hope to see one day that something like that will happen here in Asia as well. You know, somebody in Singapore or in Shanghai or Hong Kong, you know, and that actually sparks off this sort of unwritten competition amongst future lawyers here in Asia, because I think that can equally could take off here as well amongst, you know, local and international future lawyers. You know, I think we're in such so fortunate to be in this age, because, you know, back in Lara's and my time, you know, we didn't have anything that was considered to be anything like social media. And as Lara had mentioned, you know, Friends Reunited, and then MySpace came in the early 2000s. There was just nothing like this. And then LinkedIn appeared around, was it 03, 04 or thereabouts, or a little bit later. For me, when I qualified in 2000, you know, there was just really nothing going in terms of potential for business development or marketing, other than to attend events and following partners to either client meetings or joining them on a sort of a cocktail drinks networking event. And then as I progressed through my career, I suppose this is my cue to Kieran, that we can go on to the next slide, which is about me. We had, as I was starting out as a corporate M&A lawyer, I was networking with accountants and bankers, and I could actually see that they were miles ahead of lawyers in terms of their marketing. So in terms of deals, M&A deals, a lot of them would actually be having continual discussions with their business development teams about getting a press announcement in time for a completion. So it would actually be timed so that it would be released either on the day or the day after completion of a deal. And with law firms, it really didn't take off like that. So I actually had to do that myself, and work closely with our marketing team to try and get as many of our deals actually both released as a press announcement to the local business press, and also as email newsletters as well to our intermediaries and to our clients. So that was really the extent of the social media that we were able to use within the law firm. And then when I came over to Hong Kong in 2010, again, it was only just starting to develop. You know, LinkedIn and Twitter were starting to get very popular, more so in North America and Europe. But it's really the last 3 or 4 years where LinkedIn has really expanded its functionality, and that's really as a direct result of its acquisition by Microsoft. And since then, it's just really taken off like other platforms, but it really is regarded as the premier platform for business professionals right now. So I've also incorporated some videos as well, both on YouTube and also some occasional short videos I've done. I did one recently a few weeks ago about beach cleanups. So for me, similar to Lara, now that I'm a business owner, I'm free from the big corporate restrictions, and I can compose pretty much whatever I want to. But I try to stick within certain themes as well, to keep it consistent. So I think this comes to the end of this section.